This is the Page Publishing Book Club. How you doing? How you feeling? How's it going? How's your summer? How you doing over there, Rob? My summer's going great, man. I'm spending it at the Jersey Shore every chance I get. It's been very, 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 very hot around here in the Northeast. Anyway, I have had a number of authors tell me that they're publishing their books now so they can get some attention, do some marketing in time for the holidays. Yes, I know. It feels like Christmas is a far, far, far away, especially when it's like 2,000 degrees. But I really think they're on the right track. Right, get it? Right, as in RIGHT, right now. And then you have gifts, you know, right? You don't have to go Christmas shopping. You have gifts right from your heart this holiday season. And the people who love your book will buy it and they'll want to share it with others. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying, Rob? I'm just saying. Now's the time to get moving. There you go. Anyway, we have another very, very passionate group of authors joining us tonight, and we are going to begin with Thomas Glessner. He's a lawyer who has dedicated his life to protecting the unborn. Now, before we go any further, I just want to say his views do not represent the views of Page Publishing or anyone who works for Page Publishing. We realize that this is an extremely sensitive subject, and all I ask is that you listen with an open mind, and whether you agree or disagree, you can or should appreciate the passion this man has for the work he does. The name of Mr. Glessner's book is Created Equal, Reflections on the Unalienable Right to Life.
Okay, well, the book analyzes the Declaration of Independence and the Constitution from a pro-life perspective, and is a study of the Declaration of Independence as the foundation for our nation and the Constitution. In legal circles, the Constitution, like bylaws in a corporation, cannot be inconsistent with the Declaration of Independence or the Articles of Incorporation that establishes a corporation. The Declaration of Independence established the United States of America. The Constitution was set up to operate to protect the rights in the Declaration of Independence. So we need to know what was meant by an unalienable rights of life, liberty, pursuit of happiness that was penned by Jefferson. So it's a discussion on that from a pro-life perspective.
How do you know what Thomas Jefferson's perspective was?
Well, first of all, it wasn't just Jefferson's perspective. It was founding fathers who adopted this as well. He penned the words, "We hold these truths to be self-evident that all men," meaning all people, "are created equal and endowed by their Creator with unalienable rights, among these life, liberty, pursuit of happiness." Jefferson was a lawyer. He didn't go to law school to be a lawyer. He studied Blackstone's commentaries on the laws of England, which were written in 1735. When he said those words, he was quoting Blackstone. So you go to Blackstone's commentaries, and when Blackstone talks about unalienable rights and natural rights, he says, number one, they come from a creator, which is what Jefferson says in the Declaration. Number two, these unalienable rights are life, liberty, pursuit of happiness, and then he goes into each one of those. The right to life, according to Blackstone, begins in the womb, and there's specific quotes, and Blackstone talks about unborn children, or he doesn't use that phrase, but he says life in the womb and what rights they have. Jefferson, Madison, Monroe, all the founders who were lawyers knew this very well, and in fact, it wasn't even questioned at this time. This was just what the law was.
So what happened? How is it that women now believe that they have a constitutional right to choose? How did that happen?
Well, just interesting. You say women. The polls show that the strongest pro-life segment in the nation are women of childbearing years. A vast majority in the polls will show that. So the women don't necessarily believe that. But what happened was the Supreme Court in 1973 held and interpreted our Constitution to say there is a right of privacy that allows a woman to choose to terminate her pregnancy through abortion. But abortion is not mentioned in the Constitution, and to do that, the Supreme Court had to say that an unborn child is not a person under the Constitution. Now, the court didn't say the unborn child is not a human being. In fact, it said that's irrelevant. They said this child is not a person, and the Constitution only protects persons, Therefore, because the unborn child is not a person, they found there is a right to abortion. But abortion is not mentioned in the Constitution, and you have to interpret the Constitution based on its historical foundations, which lies in the Declaration of Independence. If there's an inconsistency between the Constitution and the Declaration, then the Declaration is what holds, because that established the nation. So the court was in deep, deep error when they held this.
A woman and her doctor, a man and his doctor, do they not have a right to make a decision, a medical decision that they think is best for the patient? I mean, there's a lot of reasons people get abortions, right?
Sure.
Okay, so if there's a medical reason, should that not be between the woman and her doctor?
Every right you mentioned, go through any constitutional right. It's not unlimited, and your right to exercise any freedom ends where the life of another person begins. Every argument made for abortion under this right to privacy argument can also be made to kill, manipulate, and abuse born people as well. So any right of privacy, right of speech, there are limits when you overstep bounds and abuse that right to hurt another human being. And the court did not hold that an unborn child is not a human being. They said that is irrelevant. The court held that an unborn child is not a person, whether or not it is a human being. That's serious stuff, because when we say a member of the human family cannot be protected and is not a person under the Constitution, there is no objective line to be drawn to expand that belief. And the lives of born people also are very much threatened by this type of thinking. And that's all in the book.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Glessner. Do you remember the first time that you took a look at all the stuff you collected? I mean, my mom made me go through all my stuff, and I had letters from old boyfriends and stories I'd written about the Jersey Shore when I was growing up, postcards, all this junk. And I couldn't part with it, but I didn't know where to put it. So I'm talking about it one day with a friend, and she said, put it in a file called Life. So, it is exactly what I thought about when I was reading about Mary Mackenzie's book. It's called The Box of Life.
I know, that's right. That's what it's called. Most of those things were written over a period of time, over about 30 years. They were different experiences at different times in my life. And I might show them to a friend, and they'd say, well, you really ought to get this published. And I'd say, you're my friend. I'm not gonna listen to you. You're my friend. So anyway, eventually I decided to put them together. So that's how the book got put together. It is poetry. And when I tried to decide how to sort the material, because there was a lot of material, I went back and I did some reading of my own stuff. And The Box of Life is from one of the first poems in the book, which talks about once I tried to get it all together, but I never knew where to put it. I'll read you the rest of it because it's really short. The pristine white box of life tied up in a pretty pink bow. Then I discovered that no mere container could possibly hold together the myriad aspects of my scattered and sundry being. So, with hot keyboard in hand, I seek resolution of challenges, choices, and chance. Words of strife, fear, joy, and faith tumble together in multicolored layers with bright prisms and solemn dark tones mingled together in life's prosaic mosaic, which only I can see unless I let you in. And the rest of the book is about letting you in. The one poem that I had to write was just one of those things I didn't have any choice about. It's called White Ruffles. And it's basically the story of my first marriage, which was to an alcoholic. And it starts off, with the fairy tale and ended up with reality. But that was a poem I didn't have any choice about. I had to sit down and write that. And I don't know that that's a favorite. I would say that it's one of the most intense. I think it's very real. I'll tell you one thing. I wrote a poem, and I thought, geez, this is as true today as it was when I wrote it. And it was kind of scary because the name of the poem is Black or Brown or White. So, and it's about the tension between the races that sometimes people don't even know they have.
Well, that has been said with all of the things going on, certain communities and the police and stuff, that really maybe we haven't come as far as we thought. We've masked it, and there's underlying tension that's still there.
Yeah, and it was fascinating to me. I mean, I wrote it in 1985.
Right.
So, for it still to be as true today as it was then, you could take it from either black or brown or white perspective, and the same issues are there. I was fascinated. I mean, I was kind of fascinated with my own stuff. How do you like that?
How do you like that, Mary McKenzie? Somebody's got to be.
That's right. My grandson, he does graphic design stuff, he did some of the illustrations for the book, and he did this one, which is a black hand and a white hand shaking,
Huh. How are you telling people about your book? Are you interested in making money with this book, or was this just something you had to do, and now that it's out there, you're good with that?
Well, no, I'd like to make some money with it. I've done a number of things. We were in Nova Scotia, Canada last week, and I actually had a sighting up there at a local bookstore, which was fun.
How did you do that?
Well, I walked in there and talked to the owner, whom I had known kind of, and I said, "Hey, Holly, here's my book. How about having a signing?" She said, "Great." So she scheduled it during one of the farmers markets, and that was great because I had a lot of people come in. We sold some books. I didn't set the world on fire, but we did sell some books. What I'd like to do from this point on is to focus on this as a Christmas gift.
There you go, Mary. Talk about passion and determination. Mohani Stockwell, born in Guyana, moved to England to become a nurse, moved to Scotland to become a midwife, came back to London, got married, moved to Canada. In the early 80s, immigrated to the U.S. The name of her book, Where is Home, with a question mark. Why the question mark, Mohani?
Yeah, I did put a question mark because then I wrote and said my heart has three divisions. And, then I let it be that the readers make their own, decision very soon. Every place I live, I said is part of my home because, each place I live, I acquire certain knowledge and, adapt it to certain lifestyle. And I still have a part of my heart of each country. So it was very, very difficult, but my worst nightmare was going to Canada. And though I was a midwife, after I had a baby, I became a patient. After my baby was born, he was premature, like 7 months, and I had something called degenerated fibroids. And though I was a nurse for 10 years and a midwife, I have never, ever nursed a patient with that problem. And I think what happened after my delivery, most of the doctors have not either encountered a patient with the problem. So I ended up, they didn't know what it was. They thought it was a ruptured appendix. And they had all the different teams of doctors coming to see me. In the end, I spent 1 month in the hospital, nearly died. I gave up all my hopes. And I said, you know what? I have to write the book. Or if I come out, I will always be a better nurse. And I will be a voice for all my patients.
You're an inspiration, I'll tell you that.
Well, that's why I wrote the book, because of the time I spent in the hospital, the experiences I had, and that inspired me to write the book. And I think it was a destiny, I don't know. While I had my house well established in Canada, suddenly my visa for the United States with my green card came through. Wow. So that's why I wrote about that. I believe in fate and destiny. Maybe that's what, the hardship I went through as a patient make me a stronger and a better voice for all my patients.
You're a great example of how people should immigrate to this country. You went through the waiting, you had to be sponsored. It was a process.
And being an immigrant, we do not have to wait for handouts. You can work and achieve your goal. And that's what I want to focus on. I did it. I did my bachelor's, I did my master's, I did my RN here in America, in Canada, in England. I'm a nurse, a midwife, and everything. So you can do it. So I have some book signing in New York on the 17th of September in the first Indo-Caribbean library, I think in the United States. So it will be held there. And I would love, so who in New York who want to come to that on the 17th of September between 1 and 3.
And it's the Indo-Caribbean Library?
Yes.
Great. That's a great place to start.
Yes, and that's why I thought, and also I'm a female, being from the Caribbean, I would like to inspire different women to write, because we don't have many women writers.
You know what? Good point, Mohani. Before we break, let's check in with Rob Hernandez. Rob, I understand there's a frog on your camping log?
Yes, ma'am, there is.
A frog on our camping log. How cute is that?
A little short story I did for my son when he was a small little guy many moons ago. We moved from the city to the country, and he was afraid of bugs, roaches, outside critters, you name it. And one day we were barbecuing, and there was a frog on our camping log by the barbecue pit, and he ran in, and Dad, big old fat frog, won't move, and from there I went with the story.
How many years ago was that?
So he was about 5 or 6 years old, and he's 20 now, so. Oof.
Wow, what took you so long?
I've got 5 kids, ma'am.
Oh, jeez.
And I've written short stories on every single one of them when they were smaller, and my wife said, hey, why don't you just take a stab and turn one in? And I did.
How do you get him to overcome his fear?
We were cooking fajitas at the time, and I'm sending them out, like daddies do, and the ice, the charcoal, and the frog won't get up. Finally, I get up there with them, and I hit it with the stick, and we sort of nudge it over, and I show him, hey, the frog's not going to attack you. From there, we just sort of went to a different animal here and there, and showing him, hey, spiders and snakes, those are different guys. They will jump on you, but the other small animals, that's just, moving from the city to the country, and I'm just, showing them the ways of the country.
So you have 5 kids. That means you must have 5 books ready to go.
Ma'am, I've got, not trying to be funny, 25, 35, 30 books. Just need to be a little bit fine-tuned, and, hopefully I'll get an opportunity, as I did with this book, to have them published. Good Lord willing.
But now that your kids are grown up, how do you get these books to little kids?
Oh, no, I live right beside the school that they go to, and 2 of my kids are still small.
Oh.
They're in elementary. So I still have, an 8-year-old and an 11-year-old that I get a chance to go to their school on, book day, where they have the book fairs.
Right.
And, do a little presentation. So it's pretty neat to have them light up in the schoolroom.
So you are getting your books there?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, that's great, Rob. Good luck.
Well, I appreciate that.
Did you have a good experience with Paige?
Oh, absolutely. Yes, ma'am. The best review I'm getting is that the book has a lot of color inside, with all the different colors. So, once again, man, they did a fantastic job, and I sure appreciate them.
Well, thanks for that, Rob. That's what we like to hear. You gotta love it when a father of 5 is so inspired he writes over 24 children's books. All right, we are gonna take a quick break. Don't you go anywhere. This is the Page Publishing Book Club.
Attention all authors. Page Publishing is looking for authors. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Page Publishing will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, Apple iTunes, and other outlets. They handle all aspects of the publishing process for you: printing, cover art, publicity, copyright, and editing. Call 800-204-6099 now for your free author submission kit. That's 800-204-6099 for your free author submission kit.
We're back on the Page Publishing Book Club. I'm your host, Alice Stockton Rossini. Thanks so much for hanging out with us tonight. Michael Cookhor finally got his first book written and published thanks to a knee injury he suffered at a shipping company. He was laid up for more than a month and decided to go back to writing a story he started many years ago. It's called Who Fates Befall.
Really just first when I was younger, I did like a rough draft of it, and I came back to it like a few years later, and I really just wanted to expand on it. And I just, I started writing, and the story kind of, created itself the more I wrote. It's kind of like a story about a guy who, had paid his dues and everything like that, and wasn't allowed to have what he wanted, so he gave up the thing that made him who he was, so he could finally, fall in love and have a family, as well as people losing who they are, like the other characters, as well as, how the world is right now, kind of peering in on the book.
Well, you're talking about supernatural beings.
But he's a fallen angel. He's Gabriel the angel, and he gave up his will to be with, you know, God and all the other angels, to come down and marry a woman that he's been alive for like billions of years because he's an angel. And he fell in love with this woman and saw that she was the most beautiful thing. And he couldn't understand why, you know, he fell in love with one of God's creations. And God was resentful to him because he loved her more than God. So he gave up being an angel so he could fall in love. So it will be an ongoing series, but if you read the first book, it comes to a complete end. Message is more so like the world has ways of turning us and like turning us up, but we got to pick the thing that's right no matter what. And more of that essence, like some of the characters in my book sacrifice things that they really want, but they know that it'll save other people and make the world a better place, so they do it because it's the right thing.
Even if it hurts, it's the right thing.
Right.
What do you do now in real life?
Writing right now. Because of that book, I got published. You know, I thought it was something good I could do, so I decided to write more books. I sent in another one that's a completely different story called Premium Lightning, and that one is I'm sending in to Page Publishing right now. I got the second one of it written, so I'm just really expanding on my writing. All
right, Michael, you go. If you can stay home and be a full-time writer, you do it. Our next author, Richard Ford, wrote a book. It's called Poems Written by a Government Prisoner in Georgia, USA, and that pretty much sums up the book, right, Richard?
Yes, that's where I wrote them, about all of them, except a few minor corrections.
What happened?
They claim 2-star 67 phone calls come from my cell phone to my former wife. Nothing was said against a protective order warrant. And they're pretty hard about it. I served 10 months in a probation violation. Then they arrested me for the same offense, which they could do because it was a probation violation. It wasn't double jeopardy. And then sentenced me to 3.5 more years. And
did you make those phone calls?
Yes, I did make them. I didn't say anything. I guess I was kind of angry. I didn't mean her any harm, but I don't know. I had known her for like 12.5 years.
So you wrote poetry while you were in prison?
Yes. There's 38 submissions. Actually, 32 of them are song lyrics. Some of them are country, some bluegrass country. Some of them are rap, some what I call gangster rap, and some are gospel Christian religious. Only one of them is kind of brutal. It's I'm a man in cell block 3, 20 years in prison. They all fear me. That's kind of brutal there. But the rest of them, most of them are like of humor, of real life and psychology. One of them, in fact, it's called Overdue. Richard Rose, president of the NAACP here in Atlanta, Georgia, on Edward Avenue, he wanted a copy of. It's accusing the government for creating a psychological effects against a race of people for the use of Confederate flags as state flags down in the southern states. It was not too long ago, this state of North Carolina, they just continued use of their form of Confederate flag. It's a lot of different subjects. Some of them are about life in prison. It's painful to be in prison. People don't like it. They might find it interesting. I didn't never expect to start writing like I did. It just all of a sudden something happened. Usually I worked in rock quarry twice and drove trucks around here when I was young and washed dishes, whatever I could do, mostly around the Atlanta, Georgia area and in the suburbs out here by the Atlanta airport. And I was poor, and all of a sudden I started writing all this. And I never had much education. I had like a completed 8th grade education. I was pretty much poor. And usually when I'm in prison, they put me on the black side of prison because I grew up with a lot of black people here, like in the late 60s. I'm almost 66 years old. Uh-huh. And it's been an all new like adventure. To kind of like have a life like Forrest Gump in the way. Except I hadn't won the Congressional Medal of Honor.
So you're basically hoping that one of your poems becomes a song.
Yeah, actually 32 of them are song lyrics. And I'm hoping the book sells worldwide.
All right, Richard, stay out of trouble. Focus on your writing, all right? You never know. Finally, a spiritual experience led Nicholas Olson to write his book entitled Healing Words, Healing Heart for a Living Soul. What happened, Nicholas?
One day I said a prayer. I was walking to the store and I just, I was disgusted by the news, but people getting killed and stuff like that. And I just kind of looked to the heavens and I said kind of like a prayer. And then the next day or two, I was just kind of filled with these words, and then I started writing. So, the best way I can describe it is like a spiritual divinity, being touched by an angel or what have you. So, but until then, I've never really written. I wrote or work or school or whatever, but nothing like this before.
Was it recently?
Yeah, I would say like about 5 or 6 years ago.
Wow. So you just turned that around pretty fast and wrote a book.
Actually, I wrote 2. The first book I self-published, but the second go-round, I just felt like the decision I made with Page Publishing was the best decision for me.
Okay.
And so that's my reason I went with the publisher. And plus, I want to be a little more serious about what I'm doing and delivering the messages that I've written.
Are you some kind of a spiritual healer? Are you involved in this at all?
That's a good question. I've been practicing meditation, and one of my mentors, I belong to a group called Creative Life Sciences, and I was taught how to meditate, and through that I found a sense of calmness and so forth, and clarity in my thought process. But that's been since I'd say 15, 16 years, and it wasn't until kind of like made this declaration and said this prayer, and then boom, like I was just impregnated with these words, and it just started coming out like gangbusters.
Do you share these thoughts and this book through your group?
Oh yeah. So I share it with friends, family, within the group, but it's mainly like I'm taking this responsibility upon myself to continue to write and deliver these messages, because I see myself as like a conduit to the universe or to God or whoever, whatever you call your maker.
Right.
God is the creator of the universe. So I'm just a conduit, and I'm delivering the message to whoever's reading them.
You're a disciple of spirituality.
Yeah. So, I really enjoy it. It gives me a certain sense of peace and calmness. And what inspires me is we've all had challenges in life, and then so it's been therapeutic at times, but then I also, just interacting with people, friends or family, or just kind of looking at what's happening in society, and it just moves me. It's I feel incredibly blessed to have this gift, and I'm using this gift to the fullest of my potential.
Good for you, Nick. Sounds like you found a purpose. And I got to tell you, so many people go through life and do not have a clue. They never have a dream. They never feel a passion. And that is so sad. Isn't it sad, Rob? But not here. We feel the passion here on the Page Publishing Book Club this week and every week. So you come back next week. Same time, same place, 710 WOR. Have a great weekend.